Good evening. I'm Lisa Roberts, and I'm honored to serve as the president of the Westchester Jewish Council. Tonight, it is my pleasure to welcome to this annual, highly anticipated event our elected officials, the clergy, staff, and lay leaders from so many of the Council's member organizations, and of course the honorees we are here to recognize tonight, along with their friends and families. Tonight's outstanding attendance is a testament to the selfless work of tonight's award recipients. This distinguished group of dedicated volunteers truly represents the best of us. Their selfless service enriches and strengthens their own communities, and in turn, our broader community. Each of these extraordinary individuals has set an example, inspiring those around them, and although we are not able to honor them in person tonight, we could not miss our opportunity to recognize and celebrate them virtually. One program note: the program for this evening's event, which contains a number of congratulatory messages submitted for our honorees, is available on our website, wjcouncil.org, and has been or will be emailed to all attendees after tonight's program. The Westchester Jewish Council's sole purpose is to connect and strengthen our Jewish community, and we all benefit from the work done by our dedicated staff, officers, and board members in the areas of security, government relations, connecting Jews to Israel and to other ethnic and faith-based groups, and by convening, communicating, and collaborating with more than 130 member organizations across the county to help them better engage Westchester Jewry. This last year has been a challenging one for all of us, but as a community, we have stayed strong and engaged, and we have shown our resilience. The Council has been particularly well-positioned and active during the COVID-19 crisis, working to provide critical information and resources to our member organizations and the broader Jewish community through our communications, briefings, webinars, and through our signature roundtables. I am proud of the key role the Council has played during this time and look forward to brighter days ahead. Tonight, we are proud to highlight 26 individuals who have enthusiastically stepped up in extraordinary and inspiring ways over many years, but especially during this last one. I've heard it said that you can make a case or you can make a difference. These 26 individuals have indeed made a difference. I am forever grateful to our professional staff, Elliot, Pam, Donna, Lori, Helene, and Margot, our hardworking board, all of our partnering organizations, and all of our member organizations, so important in all of our work, and so many of which are represented here tonight through their honorees. And of course, for the steadfast financial support of UJA Federation of New York. Tonight would not be possible without the hard work of our Julian Bernstein Distinguished Service Awards Committee, co-chaired by Betsy Bernstein and Karen Firestone, and including Jonathan Flaxer, Arlene Kleinberg, Sue Pearson, Keith Reich, Julie Rockowitz, Jane Silverman, and Sheila Spicehandler. Please make sure to stay for the whole program for a special bonus at the very end, following the showing of tonight's program journal. Once again, thank you all for being with us, and kol hakavod to all of tonight's honorees. May their efforts continue to serve and inspire. And now please turn your attention to a special video.
Since 1975, the Westchester Jewish Council has been bringing together individuals and organizations that span the spectrum of Jewish expression. We not only connect, convene, and strengthen relationships among Jewish organizations, But we also partner with other ethnic and faith-based groups, elected officials, and the community at large. Our roundtables allow professionals and volunteers to share information and best practices. When the COVID-19 pandemic arrived, we immediately convened community leaders to respond to their needs and help them navigate this new experience. Security in the Jewish community is a major focus of the Council. Our relationship with the Community Security Initiative gives us our own first responder, Bill Hayes, who offers communication and training to our members. WJC is a link to local government. We work with elected officials and law enforcement to maintain communication in fighting hate crime, building relationships, and more. We recognize leaders in our community and help develop new ones. We host cultural events and educational opportunities like the Nights of Music and Learning and the annual Jewish Music and Arts Festival. Offering major events such as Israel Independence Day, Yom HaZikaron, and Honor Day help to strengthen our relationship to Israel, as does marching in the annual Celebrate Israel Parade in New York City. Financial support for all that we do comes from ongoing fundraising, grant support from the UJA, and member dues, but mainly from generous donors like you to our annual gala. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Betsy Bernstein, co-chair of this evening's event. Do you remember the story of Superman? It's been told in comic books, in TV shows, and in the movies. However, regardless of how it's told, the story remains the same. Mild-mannered Clark Kent has his day job as a reporter for the Daily Planet. But when there's a need in Metropolis, he rushes to the nearest phone booth, takes off his glasses, emerges with a cape, and brings his superpowers to bear on repairing the world. Tonight we're telling the same story, except we're changing the location from Metropolis to Westchester and the Daily Planet to member organizations of the Westchester Jewish Council. Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, that remains the same. This evening, we celebrate the 26th anniversary of the Julian Bernstein Distinguished Service Awards, and fittingly, we'll be honoring 26 superheroes. Each is a volunteer who's gone above and beyond to fill a need in their organization. The nominees we received for tonight's awards were liberally sprinkled with descriptions of generosity and wisdom, patience, caring, and kindness, extraordinary leadership and creativity, and communities united and strengthened by people doing what comes naturally to them. Many of tonight's honorees have played a critical role, even if it's been behind the scenes, for years. Not surprisingly, we also have honorees who undertook the Herculean task of guiding a return to operations under pandemic restrictions. Each of this evening's Julian Bernstein Distinguished Service Award winners will receive an original Star of David sculpture from the artist Gary Rosenthal. We believe this design is a perfect fit with our award winners. Look closely, and you might even be able to interpret the art as depicting each superhero's orbit. While everyone will be on mute throughout this evening's event, we encourage virtual applause at the end of each presentation. The chat will also be open for comments and congratulations. May the superheroes we honor this evening be as much of an inspiration to you as they have been to us.
As a longtime member of Congregation Kolami, Liz ILBERG focused her skills, passion, and dedication to lend a hand at the height of the pandemic. Her initiatives were threefold. First, she used her skill to create a database of congregants and assigned every board member several congregants to call to check in and to share information. The callers kept notes, followed up, and forwarded information of concern to the clergy and the executive director as appropriate. Congregants were thrilled and grateful for these efforts. Second, her passion for connecting people, or as she says, finding their co-passions, led her to create an online form that congregants could fill out, indicating something they needed help with or something they could do for others. Liz matched the needs, kept careful records, and voila, connections were formed. Third, she dedicated time to coordinate Shabbat meals for about 70 congregants in need. She reached out to a variety of catering companies to plan a different meal each week. Then she coordinated a corps of volunteers to deliver those meals. To Liz, this is not work. It is payback for all the warmth, caring, and love she has received from clergy and staff alike for so many years. Dr. Bruce REIDENBERG has always been an active member of Community Synagogue of Rye. For him, it was not a stretch to take on another role. He plays an integral part in navigating the murky waters of setting safety protocols and guiding the reopening of the synagogue. He remains on the reopening task force and is always available and responsive to the many questions and concerns that come up. As the High Holy Days approached, Bruce's passion as a volunteer choir member led him to collaborate with others to invent a way for the choir to sing together safely. He called on a congregant with technical knowledge of recording, worked with the cantor and his fellow choir members, and developed a safe model for them. The choir members were spread out to the four corners of the sanctuary. Each one faced the wall where there were mirrors positioned so that they could see each other and the cantor. The cantor directed from the center, and the recordings were being made remotely. They sang, and their voices filled the room. Their efforts lifted the spirits of all who listened, as well as their own. What a remarkable outcome. The moment the pandemic hit New Rochelle in March, TAMAR Weinberg sprang into action. As the community went into lockdown, TAMAR was on the phone contacting kosher restaurants for orders to be delivered day after day to families. Those restaurants appreciated the business, and that continues to this day, and they are happy to support the community. But she did not stop there. As food became scarcer and more of the community remained homebound, she began ordering wholesale produce in bulk. Pallets arrive in her driveway, where she sorts and arranges it for pickup. Even as she dealt with her own case of COVID-19, her concern was for others. She donates plasma and continues to be an integral part of the healing process. As the journey through being part of Ground Zero in Westchester continued, TAMAR started writing. Her essays, which are published on medium.com, are a window into her life. They show the compassion, frustration, and generosity that is TAMAR. She's outspoken and is a strong advocate for transparency and communication. What a giving person she is.
The most extraordinary volunteers combine vision with a willingness to roll up their sleeves and do the hard work. That defines Judah Aber. He brought his years of IBM training to the task of planning out the safe return to Shabbat morning services at Temple Israel Center. He ran numerous meetings and kept them focused and productive. And after leading all of the planning, Judah does not stop there. The next day, he's there in the sanctuary, tape measure in hand, plotting out the safe distances between seats and making ribbons to mark the safe seats. Then up to the bima to mark the standing spots for Torah readers, those given aliyot, extra distance from the chazan, etc. Add to this so many details, from the placement of the live stream cameras, hand sanitizers, health screeners, floor arrows, email streams all week so everyone knows what to do and when to do it, and scores of other details. This tireless work permitted the TIC community to pray, recite Kaddish, and begin to feel like a community again. Thanks and congratulations, Judah. Picture this: our honoree, Paula Blumenfeld, and 2 other Stand With Us volunteers testifying at a TIAAF shareholders meeting. The company was being targeted by BDS groups demonizing Israel and urging the company to boycott Israel. Knowing her as I do, I can calmly see her refuting with clear facts the BDS agenda. The result? Stand With Us prevented the effort to get the company to divest from Israel. The secret sauce, she teaches, is to be enthusiastic and knowledgeable. Paula, I know, is deeply committed to truth, and through scholarships, social media, and other outlets, she strives to find opportunities for more and better education. Stand With Us embodies these values, and despite her many other commitments, Paula chooses to devote tremendous time and effort to the mission of Stand With Us, which, through its skilled educators and student interns on hundreds of campuses, from middle school through university, fights the demonization of Israel and protects Israel's supporters. This tireless work deserves to be recognized by our Westchester Jewish community. Congratulations, Paula. I learned a lot talking to Jerry Goldman about his inspiring volunteer theater and music programs with the kids at the LaFell School. Jerry taught me that the big secret is to trust the students, respect them, and believe in them. In his words, let them fly with it. They will shine and will teach each other. In a time when the arts are unfortunately getting cut in so many schools, Jerry's work at LaFell is a beacon of light. He has led the effort to provide the necessary equipment, helping build and stock a light booth and soundboard, donating a spotlight, and organizing a gift of musical instruments. Jerry then brought his years of experience and expertise in the arts, coupled with his wonderfully calm and engaging, hands-on teaching style, to inspire kids to embrace acting, sound, lighting, production, and musicianship. As important, under his warm guidance, the students learn core values about teamwork, leadership, and love of the arts. Congratulations, Jerry.
Hetty Cardozo has been an active and committed volunteer since she and her family joined Congregation Emmanuel over 12 years ago. Hetty currently serves the Social Action Committee and co-chairs the Social Justice Committee. She expanded the congregation-wide Mitzvah Day into an intergenerational Mitzvah Shabbat with high participation and excitement. When COVID-19 struck, Hetty successfully pivoted the outreach and initiative to home activities so that congregants could stay connected to each other and help the needs of the community. Under her leadership in the fall, the synagogue community collected over 2,000 pounds of canned goods to benefit Feeding Westchester. As social justice co-chair, Hetty helped to organize volunteers leading up to Election Day by working with many organizations, including Reclaim the Vote, that helped with nonpartisan voter registration, and Get Out the Vote Early campaigns with postcarding and phone banking. Hetty is incredibly organized and willing to help in any way, and always with a warm smile. She has remained a strong force by Zoom, emails, and telephone calls, and her synagogue president tells us that she makes our community stronger and better. Cindy Heller is the chair of the Bikor Cholim Committee at her synagogue, the Westchester Jewish Center. She is always caring for others. When COVID-19 struck, Cindy jumped into action. She organized 45 WJC trustees to call all 450 member families to check in on them. She was a central clearinghouse for tracking people who needed meals, groceries, and medicine. She personally called over 80 seniors multiple times to check on them and give them an outlet to share their fears and need for comfort. She gathered lists of high-risk people needing food shopping and paired them with volunteers willing to shop. She continues to call about 30 elderly members each month, and through her leadership, the Bikor Cholim Committee continues to arrange meals to be home-cooked and delivered to Shiva homes, those recuperating from illness and surgery, and for young families with newborns. Cindy does all this and more while running a school for disabled children. She is the ultimate doer. Wendy Linderman wanted to volunteer her time when she retired from her work as a social worker. She discovered that the Hebrew Free Burial Association could use her services at a UJA Engage, Jewish Service Corps program at the Meyerson JCC in Manhattan. Pre-COVID, Wendy volunteered in the office once a week to answer genealogy requests and help out with clerical tasks. When COVID-19 struck, the Hebrew Free Burial Association was overwhelmed with the need for their services. Wendy wanted to help even more. She didn't want to take public transportation out of the fear of exposure to the virus, so she walked the 2.5 miles each way from her apartment in Union Square to the office near Wall Street. She could see that the phones never stopped ringing, and as a retired social worker, she offered more of her time and expertise. She felt that over the 6 years that she had been a volunteer, that she was capable to triage the calls and offer information. As the executive director of the agency shared, she was a lifesaver. Our staff was drowning, and she extended herself to help us.
Lily Deidelsweig's favorite part of J-Teen leadership is that it's led by teens for teens. And how lucky for families in Westchester that J-Teen's Northern Leadership Circle's local projects team is led by Lily. As co-chair for the last 2 years, Lily planned multiple innovative community service projects, including a trip to Puerto Rico. But since the pandemic started, Lily's light has shined even brighter. She led several collection drives for food and clothing, started an online tutoring program, and created ways to help kids facing boredom and anxiety in quarantine. Not only does Lily create a community for her team, she makes it easier for others to feel comfortable by kicking off virtual meetings with fun icebreakers and activities. Amazingly, Lily also finds time to volunteer with Neighbors Link, tutoring children from immigrant families. She co-captains Byram Hill's mock trial team and is deeply committed to her science research project about Alzheimer's disease. Congratulations, Lily. Dr. Jill Ratner told me that she lucked out when she and her husband joined Bet Torah in 1985. But after learning all she has brought to Bet Torah, I believe it is the synagogue that lucked out. An active member throughout the years, it's since retiring and joining the synagogue board amidst the pandemic that Dr. Ratner has made an incredible impact. Not only does she chair the medical advisory board, leading a group of physicians that educate synagogue members about the masses of public medical information and formalize the shul's health protocols during COVID, she also became social action chair, furthering conversations and education about social and racial justice, both internally and with the interfaith community. She created a Shabbat meal program for the homebound that grew to include healthcare workers that went way beyond the food, simultaneously bringing nourishment and establishing relationships between drivers and recipients. Dr. Ratner is also a proud co-founder of Hands Up for Haiti, a nonprofit that delivers life-saving healthcare to the sickest and most impoverished people of northern Haiti, and continues to lead the organization today. She is a superhero that adds a unique perspective to all that she does and is humbled to be of service.
David GILBERG is the president of the Hadar Institute's board of directors, serving with incredible generosity, wisdom, and kindness. He is a model board member who energizes his fellow board members, both as the presiding officer of the organization and as a participant in Hadar's classes and events. David has led Hadar through remarkable growth, as evidenced by the doubling of its budget and more than doubling the number of participants in its programs to more than 30,000 per year. He has led Hadar's efforts to integrate a variety of external projects into the organization, such as Project Zug, Mut Beit Din, and the J.J. Greenberg Institute for the Advancement of Jewish Life, as well as Hadar's experience and expanded work in Israel. As a resident of Westchester, David has overseen an increase in Hadar's focus on Westchester programming, including launching a class series that is co-sponsored by 12 synagogues in Westchester. And during COVID, David led a strategic planning process that has continued Hadar's work through the pandemic. David is always quick with a joke and has a calm and optimistic outlook. And as I told Donna Bartel, he's even better looking in person. Thank you. At the Hebrew Institute of White Plains, being a caring community is a core element of its identity. To further this value, Dr. RENA FREDMAN created and developed a new initiative called REIDENBERG, Community Engagement and Social Responsibility, whose primary mission is to extend this caring beyond the congregation to its neighbors in the White Plains community. REIDENBERG created a framework for facilitating congregant volunteerism with various White Plains organizations and promotes involvement with issues impacting the city of White Plains through speakers, education, and outreach, including organizing attendance at the March for Our Lives rally and participating in HIAS's National Refugee Shabbat. Through RENA and REIDENBERG, HIWP stood together in solidarity with its Muslim neighbors and friends by organizing an online text study and participating in the Westchester Youth Alliance Interfaith Thanksgiving meal preparation. During the COVID pandemic, REIDENBERG has been even more active, providing a meaningful way for HIWP members to feel connected with the synagogue and its neighbors by, among other things, participating in the Kol Ami Food Pantry Food Assistance Program. But most importantly, if you ever have the good fortune of being invited to her house for a meal or party, you will never leave hungry. And if you ask nicely, she'll even give you a doggy bag. Thank you. Erwin Davison has been involved with Westchester Jewish Council from almost the very beginning. He is a former president of the council and has served with distinction on many of its committees. In fact, he, along with Julian Bernstein, was one of the early architects of the Distinguished Service Award. He and Julian were the ones responsible for making the DSA one of the premier council events. So I guess, in a way, this is like Erwin giving the award to himself. Is that allowed? In any event, Erwin remains actively involved with all aspects of the council, including as a member of its executive committee, on which I had the pleasure of serving with Erwin a few years ago. What amazed but didn't surprise me is that when Erwin spoke, everyone listened. Erwin has not limited his activities to the council. He was president of the Fleetwood Synagogue, president of the Mount Vernon Jewish Community Council, and president of the Mount Vernon Eruv Committee. If time permitted, I could go on and on about Erwin's accomplishments, both professionally and as a volunteer, but time doesn't permit, so please read Erwin's profile in this year's program to get to know Erwin a little bit better. Thank you.
Every day, Monica Abudi reaffirms the mission of Dorot of Westchester to honor the senior members of our community. Over the years, she has worked tirelessly to establish and promote healthy socialization, support, learning, and activities for older adults. Monica was initially drawn to Dorot when she lived in New York City. She was also aware of Dorot's unique offerings as her aging parents benefited from elder services in the Midwest. As Ms. Abudi started raising her own generation in Westchester, she became increasingly passionate about combating social alienation among elderly populations here, eventually rising to the chair of Dorot of Westchester. With Monica at the helm, Dorot of Westchester has grown stronger and highly visible, with a tireless commitment to expanding the organization's reach. Over time, she has mobilized thousands of volunteers to support elderly Westchester residents and to keep them engaged and connected. Monica's legendary ability to motivate and train volunteers has improved countless lives. She gracefully quarterbacks food deliveries for the holidays and schedules regular visits with friendly volunteers. During the pandemic, she always offers a sympathetic ear and a caring heart. Monica's compassion, outreach, and true caring for seniors identify her as a unique treasure within our community. Brian Bosworth, Chief of Medicine at NYU Langone's Tisch Hospital, joined Bethel Synagogue in 2011, together with his wife Lauren Freeman Bosworth and their children Robin and Andrew. Upon arrival at Bethel, the Bosworth family asked to be of service, launching a decade of unparalleled volunteerism. Brian stepped up to chair Bethel's Ritual Committee. He leads the synagogue's medical task force, so critical in these times. Recently, he worked tirelessly to provide a meaningful, safe, high holiday experience by engaging and capturing the community's spiritual needs on multiple platforms. We entertained many strategies before there was clarity, Brian noted. Yet, to the Bethel Synagogue family, it's crystal clear that his efforts have been compellingly successful. Brian believes that success comes through persistence, hard work, empathy, and maintaining pristine standards in every endeavor. Whether in his role at NYU Langone or presiding over committees at Bethel, he remains focused on making a difference in all corners of his life. With determination and massive effort, Brian has richly enhanced the quality of life and worship within the Bethel Synagogue community and helped save the lives of so many in Greater New York. Back in the 2000s, in her living room, Rabbi Helena Rubinstein created and then served as a founding member of the Rosh Pinah Chavurah of the River Towns. She is seen as the glue that holds the community together. Since the start of the pandemic, Rabbi Helena is back in her living room, having created a virtual platform for Shabbat and Torah study. She has been leading her Chavurah without skipping an aleph or a bet. A graduate of Academy of Jewish Religion, Rabbi Helena is known for her love of Torah. In 2011, she began offering an adult bat mitzvah class, and upon completion, the students requested to continue their studies. Over the years, the group has grown to over 20 students. Rabbi Helena is involved in myriad virtual endeavors. She teaches Tanakh, a classical Jewish text class, and most recently, she is teaching 2 conversion students in San Francisco and Scottsdale. When asked, "What brings you joy?" Rabbi Helena stated that her husband Boris is a blessing and he inspires me. Zoom is another blessing. Those little rectangles mean so much to me. It is obvious that despite the small pictures, Rabbi Helena is a big presence in her community.
In 2018, at age 16, Isaac Orenstein approached the volunteer department of Hebrew Home at Riverdale, offering his love of technology and working with older adults. The director wondered if this very nice young man really had the staying power. Well, no regrets. As the director says, Isaac has a heart of gold. He not only brought his expertise, but his compassion to the residents. While talking to Isaac, I was surprised to learn that he arrived at the Hebrew Home only months after moving to Riverdale from St. Louis. New school, new friends, new community, and yet he made it a priority to find a place to continue his work with the elderly, which began at age 12. Isaac loves fostering connections between seniors and the people they love. A poignant example, Isaac helped a resident attend her granddaughter's wedding on FaceTime, staying the whole time to make sure there were no glitches. He has seen firsthand how quickly FaceTime calls can change a senior's life. He has witnessed the excitement of a Google Earth visit to a resident's special place and their joy of mastering new skills. Isaac will leave for college in September and is already working on detailed instructional packets for the residents in his absence. Isaac is an exceptional and inspiring young man. The Temple Beth Shalom community in Mahopac and those beyond who have tuned into the videos produced by Andy MILKIS know that he is not just a generous, talented visual effects professional, but he can create magic. Pre-COVID, Andy was already producing short, fun, educational videos with Rabbi Friedson. When the TBS COVID task force met to discuss what they were going to do for high holidays, Andy kicked into high gear. He knew he was meant for this moment. He said, "I'm not a doctor or a lawyer, but this is something I can do." Andy put in countless hours filming and producing services that included members and even their pets from every segment of the congregation. Andy's humor and easygoing personality made even the most reluctant congregant forget about the camera and got them moving and dancing to their special Adon Olam, sung to the tune of New York, New York. Andy transformed this year's high holidays into what one TBS member called the most beautiful and meaningful high holidays I've ever experienced. Andy wanted people to feel the connection with each other and not focus on what might be missing this year. He wanted it to be magical and unexpected, and from everyone's response in the gallery view, it worked. As Wendy KLEINMAN's nominator at JCCA said, "It is hard to capture Wendy's spirit, energy, and enthusiasm, but we are one of the luckiest organizations in the world to have a volunteer like her." Wendy is the first to jump into any volunteer activity. She shows up for these children, weekly visits, special events, as well as raising funds and contributing generously to JCCA for campus improvements, off-campus trips, and so much more. But the key to Wendy's success stems from her ability and willingness to listen and learn. Since becoming a volunteer at JCCA Pleasantville campus in 2015, she has taken the time to really understand the issues faced by these children who have often struggled with severe neglect and abuse. After talking with Wendy, I was struck by her unlimited and unwavering dedication to making a difference in the lives of these children. She said, "The more I went to the campus, the more I wanted to be there." Her work there became a part of the fabric of her life, which soon included her husband and 3 children. In February 2020, she approached a board member and said, "I want to do more. I want to join the board." Wow, how often does that happen? Post-COVID, Wendy will resume her on-campus involvement, and as a board member, JCCA will certainly benefit from her unbridled enthusiasm, understanding, experience, compassion, and generosity.
In nominating Richard Cohen for tonight's award, Vicki Klein so beautifully wrote, "Great leaders don't set out to be leaders, they set out to make a difference." It is the goal that matters to Richard. He is an exceptional leader, and his passion for American Jewish Committee's work and making the world a better place is palpable. When the pandemic first set in, Richard promptly acted by reaching out to AJC members with phone calls to check on them and see if they needed assistance. He collaborated with others to help AJC secure vital funds so the work could go on during these challenging times. AJC is dedicated to advocating for Israel and the Jewish people and for defending democratic values for all. AJC is a multifaceted organization dealing with complex issues, both local and global. Richard is one of AJC's most effective ambassadors. Richard takes the time to learn, study, and keep up with current events so that his contribution is relevant and influential. Richard also launched AJC's Leaders for Tomorrow program for high school students, now in its 4th year, so AJC's important work will continue long into the future. It was fascinating learning about what Michelle Metch calls my American Jewish journey, which began in the 1890s, when all 8 of her great-grandparents were either born or immigrated to New York City. Some of her ancestors were observant, others rebelled to a degree. As a young child, she rarely had kid-friendly Jewish experiences, spending the high holidays in adult services. Michelle's parents gave her the choice of a bat mitzvah or a sweet 16. You'll have to read her story yourself to find out which one she chose. In her heart, Michelle wanted to learn more about her Jewish identity. In college, she took Judaic studies and Hebrew classes. She has continued her Jewish education ever since. What a tremendous benefit this has been to her family, the Westchester community, and especially to Larchmont Temple. Never forgetting her lack of Jewish children's programs, Michelle first got involved with Larchmont Temple 16 years ago with the Larchmont Temple Nursery School. She helped to develop the nursery school mitzvah program and guided the process of acquiring New York State licensure. When one of the families needed a bone marrow match, rather than wish them well and pray, Michelle organized and personally underwrote the drive to save a life. Michelle's nominators call her a leader's leader. Every position she has held attests to her embracing, outreaching, inspiring leadership. I met Karen Everett 18 years ago when I began my Hadassah journey with Leadership Academy. She is one of the smartest, most dedicated, energetic, committed people I know, an unbelievable role model for me throughout the years. Karen has generously given her time, intelligence, insights, and support to many not-for-profit Jewish organizations throughout the years, including UJA Federation, the Westchester Jewish Council, Hadassah, the LaFell School, and the Westchester Jewish Center in Mamaroneck. Karen has been nominated tonight for her 7 years of contribution to the Jewish Education Project, especially since the pandemic began. She has remained fully engaged, spearheading board recruitment, engaging new board members, and helping expand the work of JEP during these challenging times. Her work on the Marketing and Communications Committee helped put the organization's mission into words. Her dedication to the board in all of her roles has been unwavering. Karen is a wonderful ambassador for the Jewish Education Project. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that Karen introduced my daughter to the son of a National Hadassah board member. They are happily married with a 2-year-old son in a Dallas Jewish day school.
Judy Spanier's honor this evening is the culmination of years of volunteer initiatives at Sherry Tikva. Her list of board and committee titles alone is impressive. But the nomination we received for Judy was peppered with the refrain, "Judy didn't stop," full of stories of how she takes on one job but goes on to deliver something so much more. Filling in for an office staff shortage? Voila! Her creation of new, better organizational systems in the office. Ritual chair during COVID. Assessments of technology and halakha. Reopening planning. The design of rich, high-holiday experiences for those participating virtually or in person. Grant writing and PPP loan submissions. Legal advisor to the executive committee. Permits and legal issues. The creation of disclosures and disclaimers. Judy was instrumental in all of these and more. Judy never stops. However, we and Sherry Tikva hope that she does, just for this evening, to accept such a well-deserved honor. Navigating the landmines COVID created is a challenge for every congregation today. Greenberg Hebrew Center has been fortunate to have Dr. Andrew Goldstein at its helm. As Vice President of Religious Affairs, Dr. Goldstein has demonstrated his dedication to the safety and security of every member of the congregation. With his leadership, the congregation seems to stay a step ahead. In collaboration with the educational director, the Early Childhood Center and Religious School pivoted to virtual learning before any of the public schools in the river towns. His work on the planning task force established protocols for reopening to limited in-person Shabbat services in June. Among his innovations, the presentation of contact tracing index cards for all attending, and lessons on safely donning and doffing gloves for those approaching the bima. Dr. Goldstein helped Greenberg Hebrew Center become one of the few conservative synagogues offering a return to in-person services during the pandemic and much of the congregation's regular offerings. The beauty of a small synagogue is its intimacy. The downside can be its lack of staff support. But Mount Kisco Hebrew congregation is lucky enough to have Robin Tansman. Robin is a member of the executive committee and holds the position of board secretary and does so much more. Robin takes the ideals of community and communication to a new level. She's helped the congregation become a warmer, more connected community. She's created a yahrzeit reminder system and initiated the use of personalized, handwritten thank you notes for contributions. During COVID, Robin even volunteered to have the synagogue telephone ring in her own home to ensure that anyone calling would receive prompt, personalized answers to their questions. She was instrumental in preparing high holiday communications with the right warmth and tone detailing all the plans. Every organization needs a Robin Tansman. We are proud to be able to honor her this evening.
Good evening. I'm Elliot Forsheimer, the CEO of the Westchester Jewish Council, and it's so nice to be here with you this evening. The annual Julian Y. Bernstein ceremony is always one of my favorites of the council year, as it is meaningful for honorees and viewers alike and is always well done. I want to add my thanks to our chairs, Betsy and Karen, as well as the full committee and our staff team led by Donna. This year is so special in that we have a record number of 26 honorees, which makes sense as this is our 26th anniversary ceremony. Congratulations to each one of you for the work you have done to make the Westchester area better for all. We learned from Ben Zoma, who teaches in Pirkei Avot, who is honored? The one who gives honor to others, meaning each one of us is also to be honored as you took the time to extend respect to the honorees by being here this evening. And in the earlier words of Betsy, then you too are also superheroes. As each one of us is now a superhero, each in our own way, let's continue to use our superpowers to do what we can to build our sacred community. The Council cannot thank you enough for your efforts and support. To close, as a reminder, do stay around for a bit and watch the closing video. On behalf of the leadership of the Council, we wish you continued health of body and spirit as we continue to work and strengthen each other. For sure, our best days are ahead of us. Have a wonderful evening, and on to the video.
Hallelu, birkiyahu zo, hallelu, v'hid burotav, hallelu, kerov gudlo, hallelu, v'tek hashofar, hallelu, v'nebel v'chinor, hallelu, v'tov u'machol, hallelu, v'minim be'ugav, hallelu, v'tziltzilei shama. Hallelujah.